Hey folks, we're back again. It's Metallica, it's St. Anger, it's our 3rd birthday. So let's get down to it. Last week we covered their career right up until Reload. This week we're doing everything since, and then we're going to come all the way back down to St. Anger and talk about that. Enjoy.
And then, of course, they did St. Anger, which was...
Well, wait a minute. Sorry, we should probably give a shout out to Garage Days, right?
Oh, yeah, Garage Inc.
Garage
Inc. Which, I mean...
Cause S&M, of course.
S&M, and I think they're significant because what they signify is, I mean, two different ends of a spectrum. Garage Inc. is obviously the kind of trying to get back to their basics. You know, you can imagine when you've watched some kind of Monster special and you've seen the insight into their brainstorming sessions that they're like, guys, we're getting out of touch. We need to get back down to earth. Let's get in a garage. Let's get some of our old jams on. Let's fucking play it like a bunch of kids again.
Gotta clear out of town. Smell like a traffic boat. Here come the law, gonna break down the door. Carry me away once more. Never want it anymore. Gotta get away from the stone cold blow. Crazy, stone cold crazy, you know.
And then with S&M being like, guys, we need to do something bigger. You know, they're just such a bunch of fucking morons that they're constantly looking for some panacea to solve their fucking crippling imposter syndrome that they probably have. But, I mean, Garage Inc.'s interesting. I mean, doing Thin Lizzy... That was a fucking really big song for them. Like,
that was a huge song for them.
Huge song for them.
I mean, I think Die Die My Darling might actually be better than the Misfits version if I'm brutally honest.
I'll be seeing you in hell. So don't cry tomato, baby. Your future's in an oblong box. Don't cry tomato, baby. You should have seen it.
And I like that song.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's interesting. It doesn't get a lot of praise, but you know, these kind of things, when you don't like the band, as I'd class myself in that category, I don't mind that. It's okay. It's certainly no worse than listening to their albums. S&M, I'll give you, is a fucking monstrosity. It's
a stodgy fucking fuck on a stick.
Yeah, they clearly thought we're at our Pink Floyd stage, but just, you know, they had bad advice.
They must have been trying to replicate Kiss here, right? Because they did the same thing.
Yeah.
They did an orchestra thing.
Yeah, maybe. But you get the feeling that Kiss are just a lot more self-aware than Metallica. Kiss are sort of aware of their own absurdity.
Not all of them, I think. I don't think Gene Simmons is at all. But
no. By the way, Kiss, so I keep going back to Jason Newsted, but I loved hearing about how Kiss was what made him play bass. That he was a guitarist originally, and then he said, I can't remember what album it is. There was one of the Kiss albums, one of his friends brought it into school and he said it was like the most revolutionary bit of music that he heard in his whole life. He immediately took two of the machine heads off his guitar and restrung it before much heavier gauge strings and became a bassist from there on.
So my question is there anything to like in S&M for you guys?
It's stupidity. It's funny. It is an entire album's worth of meme.
Mm.
It represents something more than any of the actual music.
And they did that again recently. I suppose we'll get to that.
Yep. So then 2000, it was kind of a new era for Metallica. They'd done S&M, they'd done two really shit records, done Garage Inc. And then I remember they released I Disappear, that track off Mission Impossible 2. Terrible song. I don't know, is it worse than the film? I'm not sure, because what a terrible film.
It's fucking horrible, man.
But yeah, that was then when they went to war with Napster.
Ill-advised.
I think they were just bored.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like they're getting it, moving into middle age.
Yeah.
And like I'll talk about this when we talk about why St. Anger is the way it is, but they were figureheads of an anti-establishment genre in the 80s, and then the Black Album made them the biggest rock band in the world. They couldn't live up to that musically, but you know, they're still fucking rich and becoming middle-aged. So what? Yeah, exactly. The year 2000 comes along. What are they doing? Let's just fucking go to court with new technology.
Yeah.
They let some guys in to film them for a documentary, which was going to be just a couple of late night specials for the recording of the new record. And of course, they wouldn't let Jason Newsted record a new album with his side project, Echo Brain.
Mm-hmm.
So he left the band.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fairly interesting time.
Mm.
And so they then record and release St. Anger, which we will talk
But
about.
even if you're not a Metallica fan, you should watch Some Kind of Monster. It's very...
Well, yeah, I think we'll talk about it, because I mean, we're lucky to have... this is the first album that we've done that has, you know, a cinema released documentary about the making of it. And it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, a cinema released documentary with the kind of opening graphics that looks like it was done by a first year student as well, which is just a beautiful touch.
Yeah. But yeah, so that movie includes them getting a new bassist, you know,
Robert Trujillo.
or Robert Trujillo.
Trujillo of Suicidal Tendencies, who basically looks like a mixture of Roman Reigns and Jason Momoa.
And then, yeah, they ended up, what was it, 2008? I think they released Death Magnetic.
Bleeding now, almost like your fight, and there it went, almost like your life.
A long time.
Which is
for
them
them.
going back to their thrash metal roots.
The only other album that placed below St. Anger on some of those lists as well.
Really?
Yep.
I don't like this.
Dead
this is a
last.
Metallica
Dead
record.
last on who was it? Kerrang. Dead last on Kerrang's list of Metallica albums.
I think the first 3 songs are pretty good, man. That Was Just Your Life has got more riffs, more better riffs than the whole St. Anger in it.
More better riffs.
Yeah.
well, I mean, I will definitely
good
disagree with
podcasting
that.
there, Mark.
Yeah, I do words good and stuff.
No,
I
Death Magnetic is just like 80s Metallica done by middle-aged men. Oh,
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and that's what it sounds like.
And then you have Hardwired, Self Destruct after that, which
Came 8 years later, so a big that's the biggest gap, I think.
In the name of desperation, in the name of wretched pain, in the name of all creation, count insane, we're so fucked. Shit.
what have they done? Stuff. I think
Yeah, I
Alice,
mean, who cares,
Alice
man?
Rise is a
They're
good
just-
song, man.
They're just
Alice Rise
rich
is a,
and fat.
Alice Rise is a great song.
Bitterness and burden, curses rest on me, solitaire and sorrow, all eternity.
You could easily go on one of their early records.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
listen to
that's
this
it.
album and it just went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, that's it. That is it from me.
And then they've since done
Talk about Lulu.
H&M 2, S&M 2.
Oh, when you talk about Lulu.
Oh yeah, fuck, we
Talk
never
about
talked about Lulu.
Puppy blood, puppy blood, puppy blood, puppy blood, puppy blood, puppy blood.
So yeah, that was in 2011. They recorded this piece of art with Lou Reed. So when I first heard it, I thought it was a colossal, unequaled abomination, right? And then
And you like St. Anger?
I actually, well, I gave it I was listening to it on the walk here today, and there are a couple of times when it actually clicked for me. There's like, right, there's maybe like 3 songs on it that are not
Can I stop
hilariously
you?
bad, and I kind of understand what they're doing.
David, let me stop you for a minute. I just want the audience to know, when we're recording and something like this happens, and someone starts, for example, talking about an album that we all know is shit, it means that in the edit, I have to then sit and listen through these fucking songs to cut them in.
No, but so Brandenburg Gate, which opens the album Lulu, is hilariously bad.
I would cut my legs and tits off when I think of Boris Karloff and Kinski in the dark of the moon. It made me dream of Nosferatu.
There's no correcting that. But then the View, I kind of got it on the walk here. I was like, it doesn't sound too terrible.
Pain and evil have their place sitting here beside me. I offer them to you as servants of the gold that you must give. Pain and evil have their place sitting here beside me, and I offer them to you as servants.
And then I think it's either Pumping Blood or Mistress Dread has got this droney violin that kind of, I mean, I'll say it sounds a little bit like Godspeed. But the problem with Lulu is, right, that it's an interesting concept having like this artiste like Lou Reed doing weird poetry
David,
over the top of it.
Stop for a second. The main problem with stop just for a second. That was the epitome of what I was describing earlier on with the fucking baby's day out syndrome, right? They managed to fucking add a stupid fucking droning violin, and some fucking hipster just compared them to Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yeah, no, but the entire problem of Lulu is the fact that it
exists.
No, but is Metallica. The metal parts of Metallica sound like an unpracticed high school metal band. And Lars Ulrich throughout that album shows how incomprehensibly out of his depth he is. Subtlety is a word that he's never heard of.
Poor Lars.
Scott Walker released an album with Sun,
which is terrible.
God, well, it's alright.
No, I mean, it's worse than St. Anger.
Jesus.
I mean, it's like fucking intellectual hierarchy aside, it's unlistenably shite.
Well, I would say Lulu has just not worked. Anyway,
well,
that's all we need to talk about Lulu.
Let's hear what Lars has to say about it. After Lou Reed died, 25 years from now, you're going to have millions of people claiming they owned the record or loved it when it came out. Of course, neither will be true. I think it's going to age well. When I played it yesterday, it sounded fucking awesome.
Wow.
In some ways, it's almost cool that people didn't embrace it because it makes it more ours. It's our project, our record, and this was never made for the masses, and the masses didn't take to it. It makes it more precious for those who were involved.
Is this?
Well, do you know what I like about it is that Lou Reed was doing it as like some sort of ironic take, and he was like, I'm going to choose the biggest metal band in the world to take part in something that I don't really care about. This is just a project that I'm doing. The fact that it exists is an artistic statement from Lou Reed, and what has happened is exactly that whole baby thing, Chris, is that Metallica have just been plucked by an actual artist to be the metal band that could only be on this record, and they're fucking shit at it and they can't do it.
It's
but
true.
It's the fact that they're Metallica is why they're on that record. It's not
fucking
to do with anything to do with their musicianship.
Baby's day out all over the place, man. It really is. You're right.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was a fantastic tour of the back catalogue of a band that I've spent most of my life trying to avoid. But do you want to talk about St. Anger, the album, David?
Yeah, right. I'm not being contrarian.
Yes, you are.
I am not. Right. I'm being fucking honest here. This is the only Metallica album that I ever go and listen to.
I believe that. I've been in a tour van with this guy. He completely unironically enjoys this record.
Look, it's shit. This is definitely a shit album compared to any album that I would seriously want to put into Unsung, right? But I believe this is the most enjoyable Metallica record. It's my favourite, right? I don't think it's the best, and it's obviously not the most influential, but it's my favourite. And is it perfect? Absolutely far from it. But it's fun, and
it's my podcast and I'm going home.
Well, yeah. So Metallica are the way that we created them, the way the world created them. Take a bunch of snotty skateboarders and make them into incredibly rich and famous musicians. They become figures of this anti-establishment movement. It's an entire genre. It's sort of apolitical, so you've got fans from every part of the spectrum. Give them money for being angry, and then after 20 years they become the establishment. And I think that Some Kind of Monster shows you them dealing with that.
That is interesting. That's an interesting point, because you spoke about the arrogance earlier on of them saying we became the mainstream because the mainstream came to us. It's like, yeah, like you spent your whole life making money by being counterculture, then you became culture, and now you're trying to find relevance, flailing around trying to find some kind of relevance.
That's what the 90s were for them, was, you know, like, fuck shit, how do we live up to this record that we've created? How do we live up to being this stadium rock act? And I guess maybe the albums Load and Reload were secondary to the fact that they were just touring the world so much and making so much money. And then this pause, and Jason left the band, and they've got to sort of, suddenly they're looking in at themselves. And I guess it's maybe, you know, it's the 90s, it's the 2000s, it's the first time that therapy is mainstream and stuff like that. And a big part of that film, I mean, character is the therapist.
Yeah. That scene where he's watching them jamming.
And character, well, he's a real person, but he reminds me of the character in Local Hero, where the rich oil magnate has like a therapist who comes and just starts calling him a motherfucker and prank calling him and stuff like that, and cannot be sacked because his entire way of therapy is to wind up the guy. And that's what this guy reminded me of. Anyway, yeah, as mentioned, it's really handy having an entire film dedicated to this record. But so this is my theory. I think St. Anger is a defining story of modern America. I think it's these kids that raged against the machine. They were punks, became hugely successful within the system by being this sort of acceptable rebel, like a viable enemy that was still within a power structure. 20 years on, they're truly part of the establishment. You know, they're fighting against Napster and home taping. Lars Ulrich is going out and selling his art collection for $14 million. They've got therapists. They've lost all their purpose, but what they do still have is anger. And that's kind of what this album is defined by, is that they don't know what the fuck they are. They don't know who the fuck they are. They spent the time recording this record trying to work out where they fit in this world, who they are. And they look inside themselves and bring out this raw, imperfect, ridiculous record,
David,
that's bare, it's shorn of edifice, but it's fun, it's metal, it's punk, and it's got riffs, it's got hooks, it's got the best snare sound. No, I'm not even good. It's got a terrible snare sound.
David, can I just suggest that they should perhaps have called it St. Tantrum? I don't think there's a lot of genuine anger in here. I think there's like multi-millionaires having a midlife crisis. It's
like white American middle-aged men that have succeeded in life
and have issues with
are then spiritually empty. And what the fuck? What are we doing with our lives? And this is much better than golf. I'm so much happier that St. Anger exists than all the games of golf that they could have played instead.
Hang on. So, do you know that this album got 5 out of 5 in Total Guitar? And I think it was Metal Hammer gave it 9 out of 10 when it came out.
Yeah, it got a great review.
But that's just because they were really glad that Metallica were back and it wasn't Load or Reload.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So it's, for the context, well, how I try and parse it in my head is that they went from being this huge stadium rock band, metal band, to wanting to be, well, they were obviously really influenced by ZZ Top and Thin Lizzy, to wanting to be like that. And people hated it so much. That would definitely send you down into this huge midlife crisis. And they decided to come back with this album, which is trying to capitalise on the sound of the day.
I like that idea. Hang on, I like that idea, but can I just deviate from that a second before you move on, right? Because I think you're right, but the problem is, as far as I can see from the outside, I've just not given a fuck about the band anyway. They tried to do the stadium rock thing, but none of the stadium rock stuff was fun. Even all the way back to the Black Album, it wasn't fun. Like Enter Sandman's like a big tune, but it's not a fun tune. Load and Reload, there was no fun. And you're comparing them to ZZ Top and Thin Lizzy, which I think is fair. But the thing that they missed is that those bands, to get big, went fucking fun. Like those two bands in particular decided, and obviously Kiss and Maiden and all those kind of really big hitting stadium rock acts, they had fun music. And weirdly enough, St. Anger, even though I agree it was probably them rejecting, like, okay, fuck it, let's stop trying to be a stadium rock band and let's do something for ourselves again, it's more fun. Like, it's actually a lot more fun than the stuff that had preceded it.
That's what I was going to pick up on. So they've done this thing which is essentially playing to what's happening in the day. You new metal's actually dying at this point when this album comes out, but clearly they were listening to quite a lot of it.
Yes.
And the riffs.
Yes, clearly.
It does feel more fun. It feels more genuine than
it feels rawer
records.
and looser than most new metal. Like it sounds like a band in a studio playing live rather than.
I mean, it's
processed.
It's brutally loose. I mean, when you listen to this album on headphones, it's actually borderline
It's horrible,
amateurish. the the panning, even the takes, the vocal mix. I mean, the vocal mix you can hear. It's this thing when you're recording the vocals for an album, and then you go to the mixing stage and you don't want it to sound like a guy standing in a vocal booth or whatever just singing along. And in this album it sounds, you can hear James even without having seen some kind of monster so you can visualize it. You can just hear James standing there singing along, trying to get the next take, trying to get the energy. You can hear the cuts between takes to get the best bit of this and the best bit of that. Like, it's so transparent. It's an incredibly honest album in the sense that in its ineptitude, in this, when you hear it, it's very unpolished, it's very poorly executed, it's incredibly transparent, and I'm not saying that doesn't make it fun. It does. It's actually quite insightful, even down to the decisions, the creative decisions, like Lars, because he was so famous and had so much control at this point that he can insist that they use this absurd fucking snare sound that completely and drum mix, not just the sound but the mix, that just completely overrides what might actually have been some okay arrangements if you're a fan of their music. It's such a transparent record, and that is compounded if you listen to it in headphones, where you can really hear the chopping between takes and you can really hear the shittiness of it. I mean, it is very, very naked in that sense.
Can I just to wrap up my point before we move on to the record in full? They got the shit kicked out of them for this record, not critically, but by their fan base. They totally did. And then they came back with Death Magnetic, which is...
It was like an apology.
Everything turned up to 11 as well. Literally, it's so fucking compressed, and that it's just a square, basically. When you look at the waveform, the whole thing's just a square.
This is a far more honest record than Death Magnetic.
Yeah, I think... I'm not going to like this album at all, right? But you've actually swayed me on it with your opinion of it there, in terms of the wholesomeness of it. If that's even how we can look at it. I don't think this band can ever be truly wholesome, because I think there's a lot of facade at play, as we've kind of touched on.
I think, see, when you listen to the stuff from like the late 80s and the early 90s, what you can hear is a very, very skillful and competent management team and production team curating a bunch of morons. And this album, the lunatics have taken over the asylum, and the morons are making the creative calls, and that high-end management team is sort of being ignored now and pushed to the side, and therefore you can just hear the naked moronic nature of the music, I think, much more clearly.
And right, so I get we can skip through the tracks. We don't need to go that deep, because I mean, it doesn't warrant it.
I went so deep on them last night, man. Holy shit!
Can we just quickly say? Can we just preempt it by being there is an obnoxious snare tone all the way through this album. If you try and Google St. Anger, snare is the first fucking thing that comes up on Google. Right? It basically this was a combination of them listening to a lot of new metal, and a lot of new metal. We've covered this in past episodes, and Mark mentioned Helmet. Helmet were one of the main purveyors of this very resonant, highly tuned snare tone, where the skin is very, very tight. Sometimes the snares were actually either partially off or all the way off in some cases.
Decisive and dumb, tongue dried in the sun, nervous speech in your mental health.
And you get this, it's a very, very overwhelming tone with lots of ring in it, and they absolutely fucking went to town on this. I don't know what Lars had been listening to, but he just fell in love with this. There were bands like Quicksand who used it to really good effect. Deftones did it a bit as well, but then there's albums like this where it is just so completely OTT, and the drum mix in this does absolutely no favours for what is already not an amazing album.
And they also famously banned any guitar solos.
Yes,
which I actually think works in its favour,
and is one of the best moments.
Guitar favours are fucking overrated.
It is one of the best moments in the movie. Let's be honest, when Kirk finds out. I think Kirk is my favourite
character in that movie.
He's so fucking cute, man. He really is.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god.
So
Bob Rock.
yeah, what's interesting is like Bob Rock kind of, we talk about Andrew Weatherall, but Bob Rock kind of anti-produced this record.
Yeah.
And he was also very involved and ended up playing it. But right, so we'll go through the tracks, and for each track, I want one of us to be able to hum a part of it or like sing along a bit of it, because I bet you from each song we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then secondly, tell me where you think it should have finished. Because, well, all of these tracks, some of them are at least 3 times too long.
Yes.
So, I mean, it begins with Frantic.
Back on track. You live it or lie it, you live it or lie it. My lifestyle determines my dance style. My lifestyle determines my dance.
Fucking banger.
I mean, this is the number one ironic van track.
Tick. Oh god. That's
Most
the one where they're in the jail. Is this the video where they're in the jail?
No,
Or
that
is
was
St. Anger?
that's track 2. That's St. Anger, the title track.
but
Yeah.
Frantic is you
It's
know
just got a big fucking stupid riff.
it does a job. You know, it kind of does a job. It's really stupid and it is very post new metal, but it kind of works. Like, I mean, the lyrics in this album are fucking abysmal, and the gimmicks and
but some of them are hilarious. Like 13-year-old English poetry sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody compared it
your
to
lifestyle determines your death style. It's one of my fucking favourite lines because it's so stupid.
But yeah, actually, in Some Kind of Monster, you see the moment that Lars hears that line for the first time, and and his reaction is exactly the same as ours. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
But somebody compared it to the diary of a man going to AA, recording his feelings. And actually, if you listen to the album, I mean, obviously James Hetfield spent a lot of time in rehab prior to this album. It's a big part of the film as well, is that they weren't sure if he was even going to come back to the band. And it really does lyrically read like a guy, like a dumb bastard that's been in rehab, just writing his own
100%.
sorry diary and then deciding it's going to make for lyrics.
See the vocal line there. Keep on searching. I hate that.
Oh, it's
So
awful.
much.
Keep searching, keep on searching. This search goes on, this search goes on. Keep searching.
St. Anger, that's another banger.
You push it out.
Definitely
You
too
push
long.
it out.
I hate that so much. Oh
Like
my
the
God.
multi-vocal melody, like fucking great.
That vocally,
No,
I mean,
no.
who the fuck green lighted that fucking vocal take?
Tango around my neck.
You flush it out. You flush it out.
Tango around my neck.
You flush it out. You flush it out.
He never gets respect.
You flush it out. You flush it out.
He never gets. It's fucking horrendous. It's so
I've
bad.
actually written that the bridge is an abortion because it's fucking so bad.
Some Kind of Monster.
Right,
That's 8.5 minutes long.
That song you said about where should they end, it should have started at -2 minutes, because it is 2 minutes of just fucking filler instrumental.
Although the
yeah.
guitar part, that sounds like it's coming through a broken fuzz pedal, and it's just horrible.
Well, no, well, here's the thing, right? So, see, on that album, they had been listening to Josh Homme. Lars and those guys really do lift a lot of things. They are music fans and they listen to a lot of stuff. And on that album, you absolutely hear the super saturated, very tightly controlled, highly, like, loads and loads of gain Josh Homme guitar tone from, like, you know, late Caius, early Queens of Stone Age, around about this period, and you can absolutely hear that. And that I think that's where they got it. It really is somewhere between that and Kid Rock. It really is.
These are the legs in circles run. This is the beating you'll never know. These are the lips that taste no freedom. This is the feel that's not so safe. This is the face you'll never change. This is the God that ain't so pure. This is the God that is not.
Like it's a horrible song, but it wears those influences pretty apparently.
I think the vocal's definitely off key in places as well.
Have you seen him doing the
quite
vocal
a few
takes?
things on this record that are off key. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the video, like in the when he's standing doing the video, the vocal takes? There's one of them, and he's holding his kid at the same time, and it's like a fucking crash. And he's sitting doing a recording for an album that was going to sell like however many million units, and he's just like fucking sitting on a couch holding the microphone, you know, just like rah, 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 while his kid fucking like climbs over him. It's just so phoned in. You know, the whole thing is so fucking phoned in.
He only had 4 hours. He only had 4 hours a day to record as well.
Yeah,
that was part of his therapy.
And he insisted that they stop when he's not there.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to even talk about the album if he wasn't there. So for 20 hours a day for, you know, however many months, they weren't allowed to talk about the record they were recording. That's amazing.
They're all as bad as each other, man. I mean, everybody picks on Lars, but they're fucking idiots, honestly.
Yeah. Dirty Window.
I see my reflection in the window. It looks different, so different than what you see. Projecting judgment on the world. This house is
This is
actually could have been alright. It could have been alright. There's a huge southern rock, garage blues rock thing all over this album, and some
riff.
parts of it could have been okay, but they're not.
When they're going full tilt, and that's with the double bass bit, the riff's actually not too bad. I think it could have been a good riff. The bass is also really loud in this song, which actually helps because the drums sound like complete shit. There's a machine gun riff at about 2 minutes 30 as well, which is pretty cool.
rejector, infector, injector, defector, rejector. I see my reflection in the window.
Invisible Kid. I mean, this is true catharsis of a child here.
Where'll never be known in word has grown. I hide inside, I hurt inside, I hide inside, but I'll show you.
But yeah, I mean, fucking hell, this is 8.5 minutes long. I would have said maybe finish it at 3.5.
Yeah. I think need fucking an editor.
Yeah,
That's what
But, I
happens
mean,
when the
that's
band's
part
in
of-
charge, though. When you don't have
the band are in charge,
guardrails.
and it's all about ego as well. And it's just like, oh no, but I've got this extra bit that we could just do, and then let's just redo the first verse again, and then.
And the thing is, as well,
Nobody's
we're not talking here about Have a Cigar or Marquee Moon with like a 6-minute solo. They were not loud solos, you know. It's not like there's a huge spacey like indulgent bit where you get to really be like, yeah, man, this is all just chop 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 chop. It's exhausting. It's so. I mean, Kirk must have been fucking raging, man, raging.
There's a bit around about 5 minutes 15 where he starts singing "Oh, what a good boy you are," which is a bit of music that should never have ever been recorded by any human being.
My World.
Motherfuckers got in my head. Tried to make me someone else instead. It's my world now.
Oh, it's such bad fucking groove rock. I mean, it's like really sub Pantera, like bad groove rock.
It feels endless. The song feels like it's never going to fucking end.
Yeah. Shoot Me Again.
Tall till it fades. Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Come on, shoot me again, I ain't dead yet.
Maybe
This
one of
is
the worst
the-
bits of music since the turn of the century.
No, it's hilarious though. It's great.
It sounds like
it's like
Soulfly.
fun. Shoot me again. I ain't dead yet.
Yeah,
Like,
it sounds like
that's
Soulfly. In
banter.
fact, do you know what? See the
This is
verse.
Metallica, the banter years.
The verse bit is exactly, and I will go to the grave saying this. It's exactly like "Bodies" by Drowning Pool. The verse, it's the same fucking melody, and it's the same fucking guitar bit as well, man.
That's the thing. They're going for like tank core. You know those tunes that you hear blasting out of US tanks as they drive over people's houses in
Well,
Baghdad.
I think they famously did use Metallica to torture Iraqi and Afghanistan
and me since
and Chris Cusack. Sweet Amber.
She holds my hand, and I lie to get a smile.
I actually like that riff. I think that's a cool
it's
riff.
a good song.
Well,
Kind of feel stretched. The Unnamed Feeling.
Jesus fucking Christ.
When do I start writing all this down? Just let me plug you into my world. Can't you help me be uncrazy? Name this for me.
Oh my god, the vocals are so fucking bad in this song. There's a bit in it where he tries to get kind of Jonathan Davis sensitive, you know, where it's like...
it sounds like Marilyn Manson to me.
It's
man.
a bad fucking look for James. And there's not a lot of good looks for James, but that is a particularly bad one.
The harmonies are quite bad in that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Purify.
I can find the dead on anything. I can find the dead on anything.
That's almost a thrash riff. That's almost like old school Metallica. But the vocals are like brain damage.
The vocals are fucking
Total
horrendous
brain
in that song.
damage, yeah.
Really, really bad. That's one of the ones we played in the radio show, actually, as an example of bad fucking bad vocals.
And then it finishes on the longest song.
All within
8
my
minutes
hands.
48 of All Within My Hands.
Squeeze it in, crush it down, all within my hands. Hold it dear, hold it suffocates.
Bringing us up to a total of 75 fucking minutes. Longer than even just a normal CD can take. You'd have to get a fancy CD for that amount of junk. And nobody even thought to say to them, guys, you know, we could just cut this by 3 minutes and it would...
Yeah.
It's interesting you mention that because
anything.
there's a reason that the reason that Load is just like 1 minute off 79 minutes is because they were 78 minutes is because we're told by the record label like you can't go over that. You literally cannot go over that.
That's like, so you had
On
to
a CD.
like a normal CD was 72 minutes and then an enhanced CD was 80 minutes. And so so they'd gone into enhanced territory here, which obviously pushes the price up. It means, sorry, I shouldn't know this stuff, but some readers wouldn't read this. Some readers would be like, I can't compute, can't play this. That's fine.
Yeah, I think it says the quote I've got here is we were told by a record label that we couldn't go 1 second past 78 minutes 59 or your CD wouldn't play with it potentially skipping.
Exactly.
And then they went right up to 78 minutes 58 seconds on Load.
Fucking dicks, man. Fuck's sake.
So guys, do you think this should go in the discography?
I mean, I'm really pleased you nominated it, man. 'Cause it's like it's great ammo. I mean, it's so funny, and yeah, you know, in a weird way. I mean, unsung, is it any good? No, it's fucking terrible. But I mean, I hate this fucking band. So, what relevance is there asking me this? I think it definitely merits discussing because it tells you so much about this fucking act. I think this, as I said, the Baby's Day Out analogy, this band are a complete fluke. They're just such fucking morons. And they just managed to glide through life, you know, from one floating girder to one trampoline to another and just get out of the building site somehow into 125 million sales. I mean, they just... I should be pissed off about it, but it's so ridiculous I can't even be pissed off about it. So fuck it, why not? Put it in. Baby's Day Out, put them in.
Yeah.
We can be another part of the Baby's Day Out phenomenon where it's like we spend an hour and 20 minutes pointing out how fucking shit this is and then we put them in anyway. Because that's Metallica.
Yeah.
Well, I think I like your narrative about this, Dave, and that's actually swayed me thinking it should go in. But also, it's fucking Christmas, so let's be nice to
fucking
Metallica.
Christmas, exactly.
Let's be nice to Metallica.
Merry Christmas,
it's been a shite
Lars.
year.
Alright, so we've got to do the Nexus then.
This is the first time we're seeing Nexus tonight. Will it be the last? What do they have in store for us? Not good.
Why am I here? You're in the Nexus. This is the Nexus. For you, this is what you want.
Yeah, the
How do we-
Nexus, which
who are we
obviously,
connecting to?
well, people wouldn't know because we drew it during the aborted Cocktail Twins episode, but we drew Sonny Bean. That was chosen by Declan McCafferty, which is one of the most Scots-Irish names you'll ever fucking come across. But yeah, Sonny Bean. Now, a lot of people won't know who Sonny Bean is. Sonny Bean, Mark didn't know about this, which is amazing for a guy who knows a lot about Scottish literature, but he was the head of a clan of cannibals in Scotland who might or might not have actually existed, but it's a pretty widely known bit of Scottish folklore that they lived in this fucking cave and used to ambush travellers and then drag them back to this cave and dismember them, and there was only one reputed survivor of any of their attacks and blah blah blah. We'll get into that because I don't want to sabotage anyone's links, but Sonny Bean's actually a really interesting bit of Scottish sort of
it really is,
and the inspiration for many films which may or may not be part of one of these next eyes. So David, I believe you're up first.
Yeah, well, at the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards,
Sonny Bean was there.
Sorry, he was there.
Sonny Bean was there.
Hell, man. Fucking hell. Sonny Bean got a guestie. An 80s plus one.
Sorry, no, just when you started saying that, I thought I'd done a mark and I was working the wrong way. But no, Metallica. Lars Ulrich appeared with Marlon Wayans in a skit that was like anti-Napster. Yeah, Marlon Wayans. I think it was just after he'd appeared in Scary Movie. Anyway, he was like playing a college student listening to Metallica's I Disappear. Then Lars Ulrich just walks into his room and goes, like, demands an explanation. Wayans says, "Oh, I'm just sharing music. I'm just bored." Anyway, Lars Ulrich ended up getting booed at the end of that whole thing when he introduced Blink-182. Anyway, Marlon Wayans that year.
Wait a minute, how do we know they were booing Lars and not Blink-182? Because both of them thoroughly deserve a good booing. I would actually probably side with Lars these days more so than Blink-182.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, Marlon Wayans appeared in Scary Movie in, when was that? 2000, yeah. And Scary Movie was the first of those stupid fucking
parody
spoofs. Mm-hmm. And the main one that it was spoofing was Scream, that came out in 1996. Scream itself was kind of a spoof, or it was certainly a meta comment on slasher movies. It was directed by Wes Craven. Wes Craven also directed The Hills Have Eyes in 1977, and The Hills Have Eyes was directly influenced by the story of Sonny Bean.
I'm so pleased you did that one, man. That's amazing. Cause I was
it's about a sort of suburban family travelling to LA, and they in Nevada they stop for fuel, and they end up being attacked and etc.
ambushed by a cannibal,
crazy mad
family.
Cannibal family in the woods, and
in the hills. The hills, not the woods, Dave. The hills.
Sorry,
not the woods have eyes. Nah, great stuff, Mike. That's such a fucking cool thing that they took the story of Sonny Bean and basically transplanted it to a different
straight into
location,
modern America, yeah.
So it would be relatable, but yeah, they were really.
And yeah, Wes Craven said directly that he was directly inspired by Sonny Bean, as was Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well. More by Sonny Bean than by Ed Gein.
Yeah, amazing, eh?
All right, who's next?
Yeah, I guess I'm up then. Okay, so Metallica are a band with an album called And Justice for All, as we've spoken about. The band Five Finger Death Punch were not just influenced by Metallica, but they actually named their greatest hits album And Justice for None. Do you
know what? I genuinely don't think I've ever heard Five Finger Death Punch.
They are truly terrible. But
I can imagine they sound like Black Album era Metallica.
But they're a new metal band. Like they're huge. The guys, the singer said in loads of interviews that they want to be as big as Metallica. It might actually happen as well.
Jesus.
On their sixth album, which is called Got Your Six, they've got a song called Jekyll and Hyde, which is of course named after the two characters in The Strange Case of Jekyll and Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I won't go into too much detail about that because everybody knows what that's about, so let's skip past that. Robert Louis Stevenson also wrote a book called The Master of Ballantrae, which is a book about a family in the Borders who were kind of torn apart by the Jacobite Rising in 1745. It's actually quite a good book. And speaking of good books, I also recommend South Sea Tales by him. It talks about Scottish sort of plantations in the South Sea. Really, really interesting about their complicity in slavery in the British Empire. Anyway, Sonny Bean was said to have lived between Ballantrae and Girving. He was actually supposed to have lived in Benane Head. Anyway, it's out near Ballantrae Bay, and yeah, that's my link.
I'll give you it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, allowed.
These are all little Matchbox places at the time, aren't they? So
yeah.
Metallica member Lars Ulrich is actually a big arts collector, huge arts collector and seller of art. I think he bought one of his houses just with the proceeds from selling some of his paintings. Funnily enough, Jason Newsted is actually a reasonably well regarded artist as well now, like as a painter. He was in the highlights of one of the calendars of one of the American arts magazines for his work. He had a particularly big exhibition in the West Coast. He's also in one of his most famous photo shoots pictured in front of one of his bigger paintings, which is called Jesus Lizard. But yeah, Lars Ulrich actually sold one of the paintings that he owned by a guy called Jean-Michel Basquiat, and he sold it for $13.5 million. This one painting. It's called Untitled (Boxer). Jean-Michel Basquiat was a Haitian Puerto Rican mixed origins artist who died of a heroin overdose in 1988. He was also the subject of a work of art by Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol had used Basquiat and kind of turned him into a version of the Statue of David in a 1984 work, which itself sold for about $3.2 million. The Statue of David was carved out of a single piece of marble by a guy called Michelangelo, circa 1504, maybe like 1501 to 1504, round about then, they're not exactly sure. And Michelangelo was commissioned to do a little known painting called The Roof of the Sistine Chapel by Pope Julius II. Don't know how much you guys know about the popes, but Pope Julius II was also known as the Warrior Pope or the Fearsome Pope, but I personally prefer the Warrior Pope.
I like the Fearsome Pope.
Really? Yeah. Well,
I kind of see him with teeth.
Most of the popes take their names from saints and so on. He took his name from Julius Caesar, and really wanted to sort of get across the aggressive nature of the position. He was one of the most powerful and definitely one of the most influential popes in history. He survived multiple assassination attempts, was involved in a number of international conflicts, and really not a very nice but very badass historical figure. One thing he did was declare an is it pronounced interdict? An interdict against Scotland.
Interdict, yeah.
Which was basically declaring a period in which communion, etc., no longer carry holy weight. So, you know, if you lived in Scotland for the period of the interdict, you would not be, and you really believed in the religion. If you went for communion to save your soul, then according to the Pope, for those years, communion wasn't actually absolving you, or there was no merit to those religious rituals, which was a serious thing back in those days where it carried real weight. Yeah, the king at the time, James IV, was mighty pissed off about this. And during what they call the Italian Wars, where different people were fighting for supremacy in the Italian peninsula, he decided to side with France over England. And Scotland and France have got a thing, like a long history of cooperation, basically because they don't like England, not without some good reason. So James IV, his great grandson was James VI, who went on to become James I down south when he took over in England, which pissed off a lot of the English that a Scotsman had become the king. But one of the other things that James VI did was he led I don't know what you call it, a posse of more than 400 people in the hunt for the Sonny Bean clan. They didn't find them, but what they did find was the cave and an abundance of human remains.
Chopped up legs, limbs in baskets. Yep. Heavy metal stuff that Slayer would sing about, but Metallica wouldn't dare.
Metallica would sing about.
They'd sing about noble King James on his horse,
galloping through the fields, whereas Slayer would sing about a man gnawing on a femur.
Yeah, fucking right.
So mission accomplished.
Well, I hope this has been good throwaway fun, much like St. Anger by Metallica. And a high point in an otherwise awful back catalogue. Much like St. Anger by Metallica. No, I'm being harsh on us. If this is your first unsung podcast, then please go back and check out some other ones. We don't often do ones that we all actually hate.
Yeah, go and listen to the Mastodon one if you're a fan. Yeah, if you're a metalhead. The Mastodon one's pretty badass, and Baroness as well, who Metallica booked for the, is it Orion Festival?
Yeah.
It's pretty good bands in that, actually. Anyway, so talking about highlights in an otherwise awful year, we are about to do a Christmas special, which
yes, we are,
which involves two things, or two criteria. One of them is that listeners to the podcast submit suggestions for the topics. So we'll do a number of set pieces during the show, which are usually suggested by the audience, and they could be anything. I mean, we're kind of broadening the scope here. It's a music podcast, so try and keep it fairly relevant, but you can go a little, you can have some fun with that. And we've had some interesting suggestions in the past, and I'm sure we'll get more now. And the other criteria is that the three of us get bevied up.
Yep.
To make everything just a little bit more candid and raw. And
I will drink one bottle of wine.
What I've noticed in past years, a bit like, this year David took the lead with the birthday show, is that someone usually takes the lead in the drunkenness, and I got the first year, but Mark definitely got last year.
I think I was sober the last one.
I think you were.
So
yeah. Mark was fucking blotto.
I won't be sober this one.
Love it.
I promise. I'll be the one that makes a tit of myself.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to David's studio, so he'll be in his home turf, so he has to get blathered, and we will answer your questions. So get those questions in. Either comment under the episode, comment on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email us, or go to the AAA Unsung Facebook group, which is actually a pretty happening place. You get some bants, get some insider stuff. You get to, if you subscribe to the podcast, you get access to that, and you also get to hear Luigi and I, my flatmate, doing a special episode on Kiss, which was, as I'm sure you guys are both now aware, a total fucking car crash, but incredibly funny.
It was fairly well received as well, so yeah, you should definitely go check it out.
When you say to him, this is one of the two best covers in history, and you're like, one of the two best covers, Luigi, what's the other best cover? He's like, it's the same song, I just put it on the compilation twice. Just stupid shit like that. I mean, there's no shortage of it. So yeah, subscribe to Unsung Podcast. Where do you go, Mark?
Unsungpod.net to get all of our socials, and if you are one of these people who has a newfangled podcasting app, you'll be able to find it on that too. So go and do that. So
it's like $2 a month. It helps us out a lot because we're spending a lot of time in this, and it means you'll get bonus stuff. We're about to release another bonus thing as well, which is a town hall, which is a bit like the Christmas special but not drunk. So yeah, and we will be back for the Christmas special following this, and that will be a fucking mess, guaranteed.
But brilliant nonetheless.
We'll try our best. Alright, happy pre-Christmas. Goodbye.
Bye.
A lifestyle determines your death style.